Welcome fellow web traveler, my name is Goldfish, and if you clicked on this video, I bet you want to know what a casual player like you and me can look forward to in Age of Empires 4. Wait, did he just call me a casual? So that's what this video is mostly gonna be about, because everybody has been very hyped about the competitive multiplayer. But what if you're not a naturally born chess legend wunderkind blessed with a fat triple-digit IQ score? Instead you can barely remember to execute the most basic of build orders if you focus really hard. You know, a filthy casual. Like me. That's who this video is for. Background footage is mostly going to be from Age of Empires 4 or footage from various other games I'll be mentioning throughout this video. I sadly wasn't able to get my hands on the open beta stress test because I was out of the house that weekend. But yeah, it doesn't matter to me, guys. I'm fine. Thanks for asking. Speaking of background, I've been playing RTS games for 3 years now, mostly on a casual basis. I got so fed up and burned out playing team competitive games like League of Legends or Counter-Strike because, you know, of course, I only lost because of my toxic teammates. That much was obvious to me. And so, logically, I drew the conclusion, given that I only lose to my teammates, that I would just automatically win a game where I can control everything. And at the same time, I remember Starcraft was either going free to play or had like a heavily discounted thing, and so I just dived in. Now, as you might imagine, as soon as I was in a battle where I can control all of the agents on the board, I instantly won everything easily.
CV's under attack.
Yeah, so that didn't really happen. I definitely got my ass kicked. But once I started figuring out how to actually get better, I really started to love the genre. In truth, from my perspective, the average RTS match feels less like a match and more like a psychological battle. So they can last somewhere between 5 to 15 minutes and feels like an intellectual duel in which the goal is not only to fight until you win, but the goal is to break down your opponent's will to fight at all. It's all on you. The pressure to efficiently build up your economy while keeping your wits about you for cheese and proxies, regularly scouting your opponent, building up your base defenses, and thinking about what type of units you want to build and upgrade to maximize your chances of your opponent typing those two sweet letters, GG. Starcraft, for example, it feels very fast and even a little bit too micro-intensive for me. I don't know about you, but I don't want to lose a match because I messed up giving the exact flight coordinates to my medevac pilots, or because I forgot to tell the engineers to research Viking oil joint upgrades, and they die before they can even land on the enemy workers. All of the stuff from like pressing key abilities to like microing the exact micro-intensive units around. I think the impact of those things is way too high in StarCraft, and I think more often than not it leads actually to frustrating moments or just like completely jank fights. Here's a great example of what some pro players actually have to deal with. Just to kind of hit the point across.
The cost efficiency of Swarm Host is so good, and unless you can actually just get over there and kill that, I don't know what you're going to do.
The BCs are super efficient here, too. I think it really comes down to the infestor play against the BCs.
Okay, he's going to branch these out.
Oh, no. Those were underneath, and the Neurals! Oh! That was insane.
That was so good.
Oh, my
That's
God.
Game. That's
Other than the general micro shenanigans, the pace of the game is also extremely fast and unforgiving. Sometimes even too unforgiving. You send an army across the map and you forgot to look, dead. You forgot to press stim in time in the key fight, dead. You forgot to hotkey your free upgraded star parts into the production tab and decide to not produce out of those damn tin cans for 3 minutes, you're probably dead. A good opponent will run you over with that advantage. Now, don't understand me wrong, all those things I said are mistakes, but I feel like sometimes they're overly punished, and it kind of leads to that maybe certain casual players don't really want to figure out the learning curve, because sometimes the game can be very unforgiving in its pacing. The story of Starcraft is also really enticing and somewhat of a leapfrog for back in the day. I mean, I remember back in the early 2000s. What is it, Kenny, virtual assistant? I'm busy recording a video, can't you see that? Is this video still about Age of Empires 4? What? Oh yeah, totally forgot. Back to AE4. Actually, story is a pretty good segment to get back into AE4. Something I have not heard a lot of people mention is the story part of Age of Empires 4. I know it's a huge pull for many of us filthy casuals. There's also a lot of people that are kind of casual fans of history. Shout out to Dan Carling, Hardcore History channel. And I think it's a huge pull over time for a lot of people. A lot of people will be drawing into medieval games, and medieval games with decent stories always have, good over time attention rates. There's just a big audience for that type of content, for well-crafted stories in historically tight context. We haven't really seen much about how Age of Empires 4 will approach story elements, and I think video games might be one of the best ways to actually approach history. The stories basically write themselves. You can incorporate real-world lore and historical figures with fictional characters. This might sound like a fringe model, but I would refresh everybody's memories about, the great success behind the entire Assassin's Creed franchise, games like Kingdom Come Deliverance, and even if you look at the success of like the early Call of Duty campaigns in the early 2000s, those stories worked because video games allowed us to see history through a different lens. And although the story is always a little bit curved and contained by the gameplay in a certain sense, I think it does amazing things for just the general immersion and the feel behind the game. I, for one, have not really seen many people talk about the campaign expectations or the campaign, but I, for one, am very much looking forward to doing it and playing the campaign. And if you guys are interested in maybe doing some like breakdowns of the campaign or like some basic summaries of the campaign for you guys that don't really plan on playing it or don't have the time to, I might do like summaries of them or basically like breakdowns of them. I don't know. I'm figuring it out, but potentially it's something I'm willing to do. I also know most of you really don't give a shit about the campaign, so let's talk about the multiplayer for the average casual player. Historically, I think Age of Empires 2 multiplayer was a little bit too slow for me. I simply didn't really like the fact that the match can easily go over an hour, and just everything in the early game felt very slow and tedious, and you could have microwaved the lasagna and it would have already been cold by the time you hit Castle Age. That's why I got all giggity and excited when I found out that the early game in AoE 4 is significantly sped up in meaningful ways. I also like the fact that you have choices when you age up. I think that's a really nice touch, and it kind of brings me back to AoE 3. Also, because of the nature of open Age of Empires map, the impact of building up your economy is way more important, especially with the longer upgrade times and the non-choke point maps. In AoE, you're also a little bit more responsible for your defense than you are in StarCraft, I feel like. I mean, you do need to build a wall to keep those damn Zerg out, but, other than that, I think in AoE in general, there's more a focus of, like, reading the map correctly and, like, planning out, okay, after my wood runs out here, where am I going to go? Where are my gold mines? There's more an emphasis around strategizing and reading the map correctly than there's just on, like, rapid expansion. Now, granted, you can build multiple town centers and, like, have multiple bases as well, but I feel like just the act of like building a fort or building a castle is way more important than a planetary fortress in StarCraft. So I feel like the building matters way more, especially as well with the palisade walls and the fact that you can have arches on top of them. Like, I just feel like the building is of way bigger importance in Age of Empires, and it kind of reduces the amount of cheese. Now, there will probably still be plenty of cheese to go around. I mean, it is a multiplayer game, so people will find out how to cheese. And then finally, I'm just glad to see that the developers are actually supporting the scene, the content creators as well as the pro stream. Although I will never even get half of their level of skill, I will always enjoy seeing the best people play the game I'm trying to play as well. I'm not sure why I have this or why I feel the need to always watch this, but me personally, I've always been like that. Even way back in the day, the early days of YouTube, I would always look up the high score or speedruns of games I was currently playing. And because of this, I'm very happy with the fact that they already have streamers and content creators supporting the game, as well as developers planning on, implementing observer tools and dev tools. And yeah, it's just, you'd love to see it. You'd love to see it. Age of Empires 4 in general, things might not work out. Right now it's way too early to tell, but you can feel the passion and the excitement on the internet. The people are ready for a new RTS, man, and Age of Empires 4 might as well be a game that brings the RTS community back together way more than anything in the last, 10, 15 years. There's a lot of upside here, is what I'm trying to say, and if things go right, it can be huge. If they fail, you know, it doesn't matter. We have one more game. You know, who cares? This is not. I'm not trying to sound delusional. I think, you know, RTS will always be the smaller brother compared to like FPS or the MOBA market share in terms of, you know, consumer attention, consumer viewership. But, you know, if you look at it from a different angle, you know, let's compare it to, you know, things like traditional chess or traditional strategy games or 4K strategy games. I think there's definitely a lot of room to grow, and I think there's still a lot of talent to go around. I think people don't realize this. There's a lot of really talented RTS players, and this could be the stage we can give them for both people like me and you to watch them and cheer them on, as well for pro players to have an arena where they can, you know, have the most exciting matches and yeah, just test their skill out. So that's it. Overall, I'm super excited for this game. It's going to be coming out in less than a week now, so I'm super excited for it. And it's been one that's been on my watch list for a long time. And yeah, I'll be right there with you on Thursday. I will maybe even stream. Not sure about that, but I will definitely be there with you on the virtual medieval battlefield. And anyways, good luck and have fun, guys. See you later.